Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Run for President, Forrest, Run, a election 2016 theme. Yeah, I know, right?
I still love that.
I am still a fan of that title. It's kind of grown on me.
Yeah,
I gotta change the title of the other show that I do, but that's for another time.
Yep.
Okay. In this week's installment, we're going to be talking about the First in the South Democratic Forum that was hosted by MSNBC. Yeah. By Rachel Maddow. And we're going to update some of the Republican candidates. So, first off...
Yep, I'll bring up the polls.
Yeah, you go ahead and do that. I don't think there were many poll updates for post-forum. So...
No, I don't believe so, not yet.
For those of you who were uninitiated to this, the forum, which took place last, what was it, Wednesday? Thursday?
It took place... It actually... Yeah, it was recent.
Yeah, very recent. No, actually, it was Friday. The reason it took place instead of a formal debate was because the Democratic National Committee has limited the candidates to 6 debates before any voting takes place to see who will take the candidate position. As such, some news outlets, as well as some independent outlets, have called for ways to skirt around that. So, therefore, we have these semi-interviews, which maybe took less than 40 minutes per candidate. So they're not all on stage together talking about the same issues. Rather, it's just an interview.
It's not nearly as.
Yeah, no, it's not as intensive. And for those that did watch the forum, there were some topics of discussion. Certainly, I would say that they at least courted some of the issues facing the candidates right now, at least in their campaigns. But there was also some lighthearted questions. Rachel Maddow had them pick envelopes with light discussion questions like, what do you think your major weakness is in your campaign? Who would you pick as your running mate? Just, fluff, really.
Things to kind of highlight the fact that these are people, or at least they want us to believe that. We had some hard-hitting questions, but I think of all the benefits that came to these candidates, it was kind of showing that they are still begrudgingly human.
Begrudgingly. Well, in Hillary Clinton's case, that might not be it.
But it was relatively tame.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't like the Republican debates at all, which works in their favor, ridiculously so.
Indeed.
It's. Speaking of which, there's one coming up this week, November 10th. I
think that's right.
Yep.
That feels right. I hope it's right, because I think that's the day I have marked on my calendar at work. So if that's wrong, then I'm wrong. And that's going to be.
Yeah, we know what we're going to be talking about next week.
They're doing 8 candidates, I think it said on the main stage. Or
well, let's get to that after we talk about the major.
Yeah,
thing.
We'll get there.
All right. So first off, they interviewed the 3 candidates running for president. As we know, Lincoln Chafee has dropped out, Jim Webb has dropped out, and Lessing
they don't want
Lessing
there.
They couldn't have broke ground with all the restrictions, so he officially has stopped his campaign, which was upsetting.
Indeed.
But
I think that's for the best.
It's easier to choose between 3 candidates,
Yeah, I mean that's math, first of all, and it's I mean, to have a candidate enter this late in the game, it's not unheard of, but it would have been difficult.
It would have been what people expected of Joe Biden. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a reason he didn't jump in. I mean, he had his own reasons, I'm sure.
He did. But
yeah.
I feel like voters are already more familiar with 2 major candidates in our political party system. So O'Malley being the 3rd option, I think that does him some good, especially since it's less competition. But he's still trailing. He's still in single digits.
Yeah, he's got some ground to make up. Certainly, he did a fairly good job at humanizing himself and showing that he does know what he's talking about. And I think the forum was really a place for him to shine. I mean, during the last Democratic debate, we saw him, staring, like, he won the staring contest. He was staring down Clinton the entire time, squinty-eyed, and he just, like, he appeared like he knew what he was doing, but he appeared almost menacing. Almost like he was out to take everyone else down. And this one, he kind of came off as more of a person?
Well, the thing of it is, out of all three candidates, he seems the most presidential and like a politician, which is good and bad. He certainly has the experience being governor of Maryland, was it? Yeah, so he certainly has the record to back him up, at least with governing a set of people, not simply representing them. However, and I watched this personally with my roommate from college and my fiance, and we couldn't focus on him. We couldn't focus on O'Malley. He wasn't giving enough spark, you know what I mean? He certainly hasn't proved that he is much different than politicians that have been running before. Which, if we want more of the same, we would vote for him.
Yeah, he has the presidential stature. I mean, I'm looking at a picture right now from NPR of, Hillary, Bernie, and Martin. And Martin O'Malley, he has, the most well-fitting suit, first of all. The most appropriate, he has the hairdo to fit. He's the most classic, politician that they have on stage. Right. And he's kind of in between the two extremes. You have, Hillary, who's arguably a little more right and at least more established. You have Bernie, who's kind of supposed to be the left wing.
Yeah, he's the underdog in this. So
yeah, and Martin doesn't really have too much left to carve out.
He doesn't. I think people have already established this race between Clinton and Sanders. And O'Malley, well, Rachel Maddow actually touched upon this. She asked in. No, it wasn't. It wasn't one of the lighter questions. It was actually one of the main ones. If the fact that he is trailing behind so much, does he feel as though he can make up for lost time and cover much ground? And he gave a response that didn't inspire too much hope, but it certainly made him seem like he thinks he knows what he's doing. He speculated on the fact that he had 3% of the vote when he was running for governor, and then in the 90 days before the vote, he was able to win the majority. So I don't know if he has a trick up his sleeve for the presidential election, because if it's what we've been seeing so far, I'm not going to be impressed.
I mean, I would love to see that. I think, knowing what Santorum did in 2012, where he was, not exactly a front runner going into the Iowa caucuses, and he came out tied. I mean, that was kind of his big thing, and he fizzled out anyway. But there is kind of a point to the fact that that there's a lot of time between here and the start of the primaries. There is. And all it takes is a scandal to take Hillary and Bernie, by surprise, and suddenly here's, Mr. O'Malley standing tall saying, "Hey, I'm fine, I'm stable, I'm not going to, I'm not going to go in with a crutch to the national election."
Fair enough. I think O'Malley strikes me as the candidate that's going to be in this to the end. I don't think the Democratic National Committee is going to have the heart to say, "Look, you got to stop. You just cut it out. You're taking away votes from the other two."
Yeah, I think it benefits the DNC to have choice because there was talk before Sanders entered the race of how the DNC is going to shove Hillary Clinton down voters' throats type thing, and I think they may not want to come off that way. And giving as many choices as are reasonably feasible, which three is about right. It does them well as well.
It does, but I think, if anything, the media loves a two-horse race. They want to see two candidates battling neck and neck, and at this current stage, I don't think people are going to care about O'Malley as far as the news is concerned. He's not.
That's true.
The thing of it is, with Sanders, with Sanders at least, he is so far to the left that he is grabbing people's attention, and he is coming up with these radical ideas that are energizing people. They really are. Clinton feels like the establishment candidate, where it's going to be more of Obama, whether or not she wants to admit it. But O'Malley hasn't said anything that is going to grab people's attention, and that was obvious to me when I was watching. We couldn't focus on him. We kept talking over him. It just wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't good for people that have already decided their vote.
That's true, and I think he doesn't come off as anything different. He's coming off as, frankly, a little bit of a generic Democratic candidate. And
which, if you're distrustful of Clinton, but you don't want someone as far to the left as Sanders, O'Malley would be your choice. It's like it's Absolutely. Choosing between coffee, tea, and soda. Like, if you want something that's mild and isn't going to give you any sort of indigestion, you go with the tea. Yeah,
and I think that might benefit him. If we don't. I mean, this is speculating. This is all kind of like when. I mean, we would have to see quite a big event or quite a big controversy or something like that come up to see Martin O'Malley kind of go up in the polls.
Yeah, and the tragedy of it is when I was watching the first debate, I saw how all the candidates were doing, and I had something to complain about all of them. But since O'Malley didn't make any waves, I thought he won the first one. If I knew absolutely nothing about how the candidates were standing in the polls, I would have thought O'Malley won, just out of not being insane.
I think I actually had a similar. I watched with my girlfriend Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. She's not here. Don't worry. But we kind of discussed that. He came off, at least in terms of the points and the topics. He came off strongest. His main crutch was that he was going against Hillary, who exceeded her expectations. Mm-hmm. People expected her to kind of flounder, kind of like the 08 debates, and that didn't happen, and so that kind of handed her the media victory.
Oh God, no! She was after 08. She wasn't going to let that happen again. But
yeah, exactly. She was incredibly
more
fair.
On Hillary. Let's talk about her next. She. I can't believe I'm saying this first, but every time I see her in I wonder what she is wearing. I always think she's ready to do karate. Really, it's like a modified suit with the longer tunic, and I'm like, she looks like she's going to bow and do some chops.
She saw the incident where Bush had a shoe thrown at his head, and she was thinking, I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to be unprepared. She comes off like a grandma sometimes.
Well, you can see it sometimes now. You can see it in the face, at least. But to be fair, there's no fresh-faced candidate. I think O'Malley is the youngest out of all of them, but considering Sanders is like pushing 80, and Hillary, I believe, is close to 70, it's weird to realize that. It is.
Yeah, O'Malley, I'm just looking at, I don't know how old they are, but just looking at this picture of them that I have in front of me from NPR, if O'Malley isn't the youngest, then something's definitely wrong in either in one of their health plans.
Either that or he ages beautifully.
Yeah, I guess that's also an option.
But I don't want to make this a superficial thing about Clinton. I do have my gripes as far as what she's been saying, and she hasn't been saying anything different. But it's the case of what it's the case of what she isn't saying that's new, or at least like changing what she said before. In the first Democratic debate, she caught a lot of flack for Anderson Cooper said you were representing Wall Street in Congress, and then the financial crash happened. What's your take on that? What's your position on that? And she said basically the same thing to Rachel Maddow. She said I went over to Wall Street and I told them to stop it. I told them to cut it out, which is not a strong answer. I don't know why. No. I don't know why people think that is something in her favor. It's either they straight up ignored her, or she's just telling us that now and colluded with their interests.
I mean, it's a safe answer, is what it is. You know,
it did happen. It did happen. So there's no way to there's no way to say, well, I did everything I could, but they did it without me. It's like, well, it happened under your watch, as far as Senator is concerned. So we can't fault you for saying you made it happen, but we certainly can't say you did everything to stop it.
Right. But I guess the question is, are the people going to recognize this?
I think people see Wall Street as its own political entity at this point. As much as it is a powerhouse for New York and New York City, there is little way to regulate it as far as getting them to stop doing dangerous practices. So one senator being in charge of that is a bit much to ask, but it is still your responsibility.
Exactly. Well, it reminds me of every so often on Reddit you'll see a thread that's like, hey, this country's putting their bankers in jail. Why don't we do the same?
Yeah, and the thing with Iceland.
I mean, it's like, but at the time that the financial crisis happened, they did things that were scummy and crappy, but nothing that was like, well, not nothing, but almost nothing that was really illegal. It was things that we allowed as a nation, as
well, because we didn't
with our laws.
We didn't have a precedent for that, so there was no way to say they need to go to jail for it.
Right, exactly. And so, I mean, Hillary going over to them and saying, cut it out, I mean, that's really all she could do.
It's very true.
I guess. I mean, beyond, introducing a slew of bills that were being introduced
or reinstating Glass-Steagall.
Yeah.
But that was repealed for a reason. Reasons which I'm not well equipped enough to elucidate on. I still think it should come back.
It was basically just that it was limiting to some financial institutions, and therefore, Well,
I'm sure that's the congressional answer.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what it comes down to. There was not as much money flow as there could be, and they decided to change that. But it's her generic answer is safe. It's not something that she's not giving hard facts, so there's no hard facts to call her on. Well, she's saying that she went over and...
Well, she knows that she can't make weight. She knows she is in the lead by a safe-ish margin. There were times in Iowa and New Hampshire polls that Sanders was coming ahead, but as far as in the South, she is... instead of those two states, she is in the lead everywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
She knows that.
I'm looking at the last five polls average put her at 22 points ahead of Sanders, and that's
she
insane.
knows she has the minority vote, and she knows she is at least she is banking on winning the women vote.
Exactly, and I mean that's safe. We don't have a woman in the race this early. I mean, or another woman in the race.
Well, we do have Fiorina.
Yeah, but especially for the primary, I guess at least she's going to be able to bank off that. I mean, if you and she's banking on, I think beyond the first two states, which admittedly are important. She's got South Carolina all but locked up because she has 80 or 90% of the minority vote, and that's largely who turns out for those type of things.
Yeah, well, there was
at least in South Carolina.
There was the personal question that definitely did highlight a lot of things that I have been thinking as far as her connection with Arkansas. It was, and a lot of people might have not pick up on this, but it was the hush puppy question, because it's sort of like, what do you call a soft drink depending on your nation? You either call it soda, you call it pop, you call it Coke. And she even answered that in a safe way. That is remarkable. It's either a fried ball of corn dough, a shoe, or a dog. And she goes, I eat hush puppies in my hush puppies.
Yeah.
I'm like, for Christ's sake, pick a side, please.
She's in first. She doesn't need to. I mean, there was always a few months ago, there was the conspiracy theory that the reason the DNC is not having too many debates is because they want Hillary to win, and that the debates benefit other candidates.
I could subscribe to that theory.
Yeah, I can dig that. And I mean, Hillary in that position, she's not going to open herself up to any sort of
dividing.
If she doesn't have to, why should we? I mean, we saw Mitt Romney kind of, just kind of lambasted with complaints and issues because of his binders full of woman comments.
Ugh.
And, I mean, on the surface, it's not like a terrible, like, it's a terrible way to say something, but I mean, the motivation wasn't...
It wasn't in the right place. But at least identifying... You have the Southern vote, and you have... I'm almost certain that she's going to win the New York vote. Like, you don't represent a constituency like that and have them turn around and... She didn't do anything terrible, but knowing her, the thing of it is, she lived in Arkansas. She did all of it. She grew up there, politically speaking, and then the second there was a seat open in New York, she ran for that. She moved up here and ran for that. So using
carpetbagger.
Using Reconstruction terms, it's a carpetbagger.
Yeah.
So.
I'm surprised she doesn't get more flack for that, honestly. Just in and of itself.
I think she might have... The thing of it is, I think she may have already gotten that sort of criticism when she was running for the seat. So, since she became Secretary of State, I guess political, state lines don't really matter as much. But it's still something to look out for when She
showed that she was more than...
Yeah, I'd say she's more... She sees herself as an American citizen rather than a resident of a state.
Right. I think there is criticism that the other candidates could lay on her along the lines of, she's just a political opportunist, and that's all she's going for.
Well, I think Anderson Cooper asked that.
I mean, she... Yeah. But, she's kind of proven herself, for lack of a better term. She when... Even back when she was picked by her husband for a major role, people were like, "Oh, she just being chosen because she's his wife." And she kind of at each stage she proved that she's more than just a figurehead, that she can do things.
Yeah.
So.
Well, okay. As far as other,
she's got some things going for her, certainly.
Yeah, well, she does, and I don't think anyone's going to take that away from her. She has the experience. She has credentials. Depending on how much you want to dissect that, you could find something to criticize. It's sort of like how O'Malley is a former governor, and she's been just representative of some people.
Right.
Yeah. But as far as other questions are concerned, which I do want... I thought Rachel was going to hammer her down on this, the same way that Anderson Cooper didn't let people off the hook for not answering questions. There was another one, and it was basically what people were thinking. If you had to choose someone on the Republican side to be your vice president, your running mate, who would it be? And she found a way to just worm her way out of it. Now I know it's not I know it's not a major concern as far as she didn't answer this or she flip-flopped on that. She just refused to answer. Which was a responsible decision, but it's still in the spirit of the question. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to she's not going to say anything against herself, but I think we also have to kind of look at the network here. This is MSNBC. They might have a slant on this. They might have their own reasons for not crossing Hillary Clinton. I guess the easiest way to say it. They're not looking to put any of these candidates in a bad light, come national.
Well, I suppose that would be... They're given that protection for Hillary. She is the popular choice, and the network isn't going to alienate themselves from further coverage just because they had to lock her down with an answer. But I do like that the moderators so far have at least been stricter when it comes to answers, whereas the Republicans were able to walk over the moderators in the last debate.
Right.
So,
well, you need Anderson Cooper to do all the debates. That's it.
Yeah, I would. The thing of it is, what made it strong, what made the forum informative and the debate strong, was the fact that it was one person asking questions.
Yes.
And they are already 100%. Respected. Well, not to say that anyone from Fox wasn't respected, but they have made names for themselves in journalism.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
Go
ahead.
I think that when you have too many people on the in the moderator's chairs, I guess you kind of end up with the problem of, am I asking the question? Are you responding? Are we together going to allow this? Or one of, people were stepping on each other's toes when we saw that happening. And so having the one person up there is, at the very least, the candidates know who they're directing their attention to. And there's one person in control that can make the ultimate decision at any time to shut someone down or let someone speak.
It is more authoritative in that sense.
Exactly.
Final thing on Clinton, which is a segue to the last candidate. The big thing about getting the forum in South Carolina was to get minority voters as well as Democratic voters, which are fewer in those states and area, motivated, energized, and aware of who the candidates are. So a big thing for Sanders is name recognition, which Clinton already has. She's a household name.
Oh, certainly. So, I mean, that comes with having your husband be, president.
Oh, of course, and being Secretary of State isn't something to scoff at either. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what Sanders needs is to get the minority vote on his side, and that's everyone, because he's already big with white voters. He just needs a push in every other direction.
Absolutely. And I mean, when it comes to the primary, I mean, minorities come out in force.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the place that right now in our society they have the most say, frankly. And so, I mean, that's awesome in and of itself. But it's also to say that if all these candidates, if they want to get there, it shows that they kind of have to play their hand.
Mm-hmm.
They have to play their hand in South Carolina and show what they're going to do, not just for America, but for disadvantaged peoples.
Agreed. So the thing about the weird paradigm that we have here is that Sanders already has a proven track record with civil rights. He has stated numerous times that he was there in the Million Man March on Washington, D.C. He has carried out the will of MLK, and he has done experience with sit-ins, a lot of things. He was alive during that time, and he was already politically active.
Yes.
However, that has not gotten across to people, and I don't think it speaks as much volumes as he's intending it to be. It's not speaking as loudly as he wants. It's all well and good to say you were ahead of the curve and you were progressive during that time too, but the fact that it happened in the past might not be working as well, because Hillary Clinton was also given questions as far as blacks, African Americans, whichever you want to call it, and the minority vote as well, and she was given more emotional fielded answers and questions. So the weird paradigm is he already walks the walk with that, but Hillary may have gotten more. Her poll numbers with them may have been boosted more than him.
It's a really weird thing,
incredibly.
Right? Like and I mean we could kind of go back and forth trying to figure out why. We could talk about how people just forget over the course of 30, 40 years.
Well,
but when it comes down to it, that we still have this question that kind of remains unanswered as to why is Bernie not shining through with his record when he does talk about it quite a bit. And Hillary, who doesn't very, very much talk about it, is getting a lot of credit. And they're both very progressive in that sense, but there's still something odd here.
Well, I get the feeling that they wanted Hillary in 2008, but if we were going with racially biased voting, Obama snagged that, and they were thinking, well, we'll vote for him now, but we want Hillary in next time she's available to run. That's my tinfoil hat.
That's fair. That's a neat one. I like it.
Because she is still a very solid candidate. Yeah. It's just,
yes. No,
he was there.
Yeah. My tinfoil hat has to do more with time period. I mean, Sanders can cite how he was there at the beginning. He's always been a proponent, but Hillary's got she's got recency. She was the Secretary of State under a black president. She was ahead. She ran against him in the primary. She has been outspoken more recently, I guess, at least in a little bit of a way. And I guess this is the tinfoil hat on top of the tinfoil hat. People do remember Bill, and I think they remember the good things under his presidency, and are looking kind of to see more of the same under Hillary.
Yeah, well, I don't think I think the fact that, well, supporting MLK is not the end-all be-all in politics. He was already on the right side of history, so any politician worth their salt would not say anything bad about him. Even if it turned out that he may have been a horrible person, like, MLK still is.
It's just not politically correct to do that
when
anymore.
it comes to. He is still the golden standard when it comes to civil rights. However,
yes,
that was then. This is now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's like. I'm just imagining what an election would have looked like maybe 70 years ago, with people saying, oh yeah, I was always against slavery. It's like, well,
well, good for you to say that now.
That's great. We're all against slavery now. We kind of got that one down. I think there's a lot. There's different issues now.
That's actually a theme when it comes to Sanders. He has the record to speak for it when it comes to his Senate votes. However, it's all well and good to say, well, I was against this, which we're already voted on it. Oh, I was already in favor of this, and years later it's come into action. Like, it's all well and good, but you have to prove what you can do for people, like, now. You know what I mean?
Right. And I mean, he seems, I don't want to say he seems stuck in the past, because he is very progressive. He's, the progressive candidate that they're running.
Which, a thing about that is, is Hillary trying to brand herself as the progressive candidate?
I don't know. I think she's waiting, honestly. I think she's honestly right now trying to wait this out. I think that she recognizes that the little she says could hurt her, and the less she says, the better. And so if she can come out of this without a stigma of being too progressive or too not, then she can kind of position herself for the national however she wants. I think that she maybe, she's certainly, acting more progressive now. There's a credible threat to her nomination.
Well, I think people can make the stance that since Sanders was gaining ground for taking a stand and being the progressive candidate, she has adopted those policies. So she wants to seem.
And why not?
It's already exciting people, but I think Sanders needs to harp on the fact that he said it first, and he's not saying these things just to get people excited or to bring people over to another side. That is his major problem.
I think he needs to try to translate this into how he plans to kind of continue the quest for all human rights, as you might call it. For civil rights. He's
back to the civil rights.
He said a lot about what he's done.
Back to the civil rights.
He said a lot about.
Go ahead. I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. He says a lot about what he's done, and less that what he's been on the right side of history. He doesn't say how he's going to use that to kind of
build momentum.
Exactly how he's going to bring about new civil rights in the modern age.
Yeah. Well, you could see the divide between him and Clinton, because both of them have had rallies interrupted by Black Lives Matter. And he was the first one. They took the stage, and he just kind of gave up. And I think ever since then, he has adopted this position of, well, Black Lives Matter. Not all lives matter, because, well, that's the egalitarian view of it. But Black Lives Matter, because he has the civil rights history, and I think he's of the mind that that's what we have to focus on now. But I am of the mind that he would not be that way if Black Lives Matter never interrupted his rally. Whereas with Hillary, she knows that they are a political force to be reckoned with, and they were not able to take over her rally. They made a fuss, but they were not able to silence her.
Right. Well, it's kind of counterintuitive.
No, that group is very counterintuitive to at least interrupt either of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think anyone was on their side after that, saying, "Yeah, you did the right thing." You're supposed to try and understand which candidate is supposed to be the best. Which,
Right.
if they've interrupted Clinton and Sanders, are they trying to say that O'Malley is on their side?
I think they're going more for the fact that no one's on their side, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to be able to say that I have a guess or that I have anything for that, but
I want to know what their end game is.
The fact of the matter is, yeah, I don't know, and I don't know how the minority community is taking this. I don't know if everyone's looking at the Black Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter committee, the group. I don't know if they're looking at this and saying, "Oh, this is a little extreme to be taking over a Bernie rally," or if they're all for it. Because it's just I don't fall into that community. I'm not going to guess because I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither.
And so, it could end up being something that's big, if the fact that they were able to take over a rally is
big for their cause, but is that going to help them out?
I mean, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think interrupting the rally of the candidates, or trying to interrupt the rally of the candidates that can help you. Let's be frank, the Republicans aren't exactly first in line to be helping minority communities. I don't think it's smart, but I don't know what the people really think about that. I mean, this is my opinion. I don't know what I don't know if people think that this is smart there. So.
Okay, more things with Sanders. A big thing post first debate was he was slammed for having a differing opinion on gun control, and he defended that by saying that he was representing a rural constituency, and a big takeaway from that was the soundbite, "We need to stop shouting about guns," which Hillary, for lack of a better word, morphed into a sexist complaint, saying that I've been told I need to stop shouting, and he was quick to correct himself, saying, well, some of the other candidates may have taken what I've said, we all need to collectively stop shouting about it. It's going to be interesting to see if this is going to be the topic that cost him the nomination.
That would be terribly ironic. First of all,
I know, right?
It would be, but
he's calling for a more sensible discussion about it, which I'm in favor of, honestly, because you're not going to get anything from going to the extreme, either no guns or more guns. You're not going to get anything out of that,
right? But I think Hillary has the opportunity here to say to her constituents, which is the entirety of the Democratic Party, hey, look, I can have progressive ideas too. I can be, she's trying to say, hey, I'm not wishy-washy on this like Sanders might be. And it's her one topic to really be able to hit out of the park if she really wants to. And I think more than her, I think.
But with that, she would be drawing attention to herself as the wishy-washy candidate.
Yeah, it is.
No one. The thing of it is, she started to play dirty, taking that quote and using it as a way to call him sexist. Bernie, I think, has tried to I think he's starting to come out of his shell. He's tried to rise above it and say, I'm going to run a clean campaign, but that's not what wins an election, dude.
No.
He has been very quick to call Republicans cowards, which that's a big thing, but I'll get to that. But before he's able to do that, he has to take down Hillary first.
Yeah, and I think he
has ammunition.
Right now
he just has to be wanting to use it.
Yeah, I can't think of any candidate who's run a clean campaign and won.
Yeah.
At least in recent memory. But it's and the thing is he's threatening to, or he's on the verge of falling into a campaign where he's always apologizing.
Yep.
And that's exactly what the Clinton campaign wants. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see what they do with that. Because
when you're in a campaign when you're in a campaign for apologizing, you're not making any progress.
No,
but
exactly.
But at least he hasn't been apologetic about his views. I think he has been sorry about maybe being misunderstood.
Right. But I think that's...
But he's been very clear about what he wants so far, and a lot of the forum has... I wouldn't say it devolved, but I think it kind of became more of the same sound bites that we've come to expect from him.
Yeah. Exactly. I think there's nothing new, there's nothing more genuine. It's, the billionaires and the corporations over
and the Republicans now. He was able to take a good swipe at them because of the voting rights.
Yeah,
which that is a big thing. That's a big result that came out of that. Calling for 100% voter registration. That's a new idea that came out of that, and I gotta say, I'm happy that was able to come to light.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we that's what we all think we want. At least I'm sure that some Republicans would disagree.
Oh, of course.
Some people on my side of the aisle would disagree.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a conversation that I think we should have about the fact that we only have 70% voter registration and not half of them show up or something like that to most elections. Yeah. It opens the door to new conversations about mandatory registration, for example, or getting rid of registration in and of itself and just showing up to the polls assuming you are already registered. Yeah, either compulsory or when you get your driver's license, that's how you sign up. It's just a thing. You're done.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it opens up.
It's a nice idea, and I think it falls into the theme of things that he has been wanting, where I'm not going to say they're lofty goals, but they are definitely, radical.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, that might be what he's trying to play into. When you're on the defense, or when the radical things you're proposing are becoming sound bites, you might need to come up with something a little different. You might need to come up with something that's either more radical or just different from what people have been hearing. Something that grabbed the headlines from you.
And that exactly came through for the voter rights. So I think he came out golden in this, especially the fact that he joined the MSNBC crew afterwards with their little post discussion game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's just oh, by the way, we have one of the candidates here, Senator Sanders. Wow, did not expect that.
He's trying to be a little bit more personable too, and I think maybe as we go closer to the primaries, we might see more of that because when it does come down to it,
he's not a person. He doesn't seem like a personable guy, which he did touch upon with one of the questions. He's aware of the fact that people think he's grumpy, and yeah.
And he seems, he doesn't seem apologetic for it. He seems like, he's gonna just keep pushing policy. And, I think he's relying on voters to kind of see that and to look past the grumpy side of him. I don't know if that's a good strategy, but it is one.
Well, that's a discussion that I think also needs to happen. Do we want a personable president, or do we want one that needs to get things done? Because we've already seen Trump and Hillary Clinton on SNL. I don't see Bernie Sanders doing that. And with good reason. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would crack jokes about that.
No, he would interrupt a mid-joke with by
the way, that's not true. That's not true.
Yeah,
So I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also... I think, I don't know if we're at that point as a society yet where we can focus on issues to be totally...
But the thing of it is, Obama kind of set Obama set that standard of being a president of the people, or at least being a semi-entertaining president. And I think that was inevitable in a world of social media and entertainment. There was nothing but going along with that. He has Vines. He went on, He went on Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis. Really? A president?
Exactly. Yeah. By doing that, he's proven he's, not only a people president, but he's personable.
Yeah.
It's the JFK versus Nixon debate thing, where it's, Bernie may have the more solidified points and the plans, but if he's not personable, he loses a large chunk of the electorate that's just looking to see who's, the easiest to have a beer with or have a dinner with.
Which you gotta figure your own metric on if you want that as a president. Do you want to have a beer with this guy, or do you just trust him with leading the nation?
Quite a question.
Not loaded or anything.
That could be the lead-in, No, of course not.
The next forum, if they have one.
Yeah, that would be fun. I could see that as being like an exit poll question. Did you vote for the leader of the free world based on if you could have dinner with them or their policies? That could be fun.
All right. Shall we get into the Republicans? Just kind of clean up with that.
We don't... Yeah, sure. I have the numbers somewhere over here.
Okay. So big news as far as the next debate that's going to be happening on Tuesday, November 10th. There will be new participants in the little card debate, and that would be Governor Chris Christie.
The Little League.
And the Little Leagues, Chris Christie and Mike Huckabee. They have finally dropped so much in public polls that they are finally among the ranks of Rick Santorum and Bobby Jindal. Which,
yes,
holy
indeed.
crap, that's got to be a blow to the ego.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, for Huckabee less so, but for Christie, who's the charismatic madman, love him, but
Well, Christie tried to set himself apart in the last debate by trying to make himself a little more louder and well known, and coming up with more, I guess, no, just a louder voice. I don't think he was coming up with anything new. Just he kind of jumped on the bandwagon with attacking the moderators. Huckabee, on the other hand, he's always been sort of on the lower side, so it's no real surprise to me, but I just kind of wish the guy would just drop out. Seriously.
Yeah, Huckabee, I'm very glad to see not in the main debate, because, we usually kind of, we'll go to him and he'll be like, what about, he'll be flailing his arms about, doing his jazz hands, and he's not really saying anything.
Yeah.
Christie, I am going to mourn the loss of a little bit.
He was entertaining, at least.
Yeah, he had a little pizzazz to him. He kept things interesting. Huckabee less so.
Yeah. Let's see.
But I mean, right now, from the average of the last 4 polls, they are polling, the lowest of the 10 anyway. So, as it would turn out, it just kind of works out that way. Paul was so close to being in that bunch too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was actually surprised that Rand Paul wasn't going to be bumped down to the little card.
It looks like he's very close. He's the next one.
I thought he was at the bottom of every poll, consistently.
Let me take a look. It looks like he...
Or was he really just doing well enough?
What is this? The last poll, he managed to jump a little bit. What's that?
Okay, who else? Let's see. Fiorina is just doing as well as ever, I guess.
She's just doing her.
Yeah, she's just doing her thing.
She's got a consistent 3 percentage points in the last 4 polls, leading to an average of 3, as you might imagine.
Let's see, who's up after that? Yeah, it's not really anything noteworthy with
her
this week.
Kasich, who's in between. He didn't get a... Yeah.
Wait, so who again? Sorry, you're breaking up a bit.
I'm sorry. I was saying Kasich.
Oh, Kasich.
Is someone else who can... But he didn't get a bump.
He didn't.
I'm very upset about that.
Because, for crying out loud, you can't just, you can't just try and shout and then expect that to get you more numbers. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I guess what I'm looking at is I'm looking at some of the more recent polls where Trump and Carson are still neck and neck, and looking at the last debate where that they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, they did compete with the World Series, and it was that kind of thing.
Yeah, Kasich, whatever. Cruz. I don't think Cruz has done anything noteworthy as well. I think people are looking for a Trump Cruz ticket.
That'd be quite ticket. Cruz to victory. Yeah, Cruz is actually doing all right. Cruz has got
doing fine.
10 average points. Bush even got a little bit of a bump.
Yeah.
He's at 5.5, which is funny to think that's a bump.
Yeah, the thing of it is, Bush. I said this before. I'll say it again. He's going to be in it to the end. Despite the fact that he had a failed Twitter campaign with Jeb Can Fix It. I don't think anyone took the bait on that one. Social media is not his playground.
No, not being a Bush. He's he doesn't have as wild support as he has haters, as they would call him.
Well, he's still going to be in it to the end. I want to call it with him, but he just still has that persistent heartbeat. Let's see.
What's the format after this? Do they start dwindling down the numbers of people in the top level?
I don't know. They might start doing away with the little card and keep bumping up the requirements to be in the debate.
I hope so. That would be very nice.
Well, the reason that we started the show was because I thought there were too many Republican candidates on the stage to begin with. So the fact that they bumped down 2 is already answering my prayers.
Yeah. Well, with any luck, the fact that we have bumped down 2 will, much as I would like to see Christie in the race, I think it would be, these candidates in Little League, they're not going to get any recognition. They're not going to be bumped.
No,
up.
They're not. It's a nursing home in essence.
Yeah, I mean, Pataki, Graham, and Jindal all polling at exactly 0. No, Jindal has 0.7 actually. The last
I think didn't Pataki drop out? I know Lindsey Graham did.
Graham did. Let me check Pataki.
Yeah. Rubio, on the other hand, I don't think has done anything noteworthy yet. So we're gonna have to see when it comes to the debate.
Yeah, he's polling well.
He's in consistent third place, which is a very safe position for him because I think once we'll get to Carson in a second, but I think once people start to buckle down and get serious, they're gonna be like, okay, who can actually lead us?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, Trump, he just hosted SNL. There was a whole potential scandal with that, where there was a Deport America. Was that it? It
something like.
There was a civil rights group that was offering a bounty for Trump. For someone to call out and say Trump is a racist, and I think the first person to do that would get $5,000 from them. Thankfully, the SNL crew made sure that didn't happen, save for Larry David calling Trump a racist.
Claiming his prize, I assume, right?
So that went off without a hitch. I don't think people, really cared for Trump on SNL, but good thing he didn't ride that success and he's back on the campaign trail. It was a fun thing for him to do, so I don't think he needs more name recognition.
It benefits him. No, but it benefits him to show him potentially a little bit, personable.
Is he anything but personable?
I don't know. I think a lot of Americans see him as kind of
businessman.
The next, the next dictator of the United States.
Well, give it time.
And that's something in itself. But I think he has the ability to. He has his record down. He's got his talking points on that. I think now, especially as we get closer to the to the primary and eventually the national
and Super Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. I think him showing that he's, actually a human being with feelings and emotions would help him.
Well, I think he's running on the platform that he is a businessman. He doesn't want any bullshit with that, and he's not going to be PC about it.
Right.
So that's drawn in people. They want a candidate that talks straight, and I guess he does.
Yeah, and it looks like we're getting to a point where a lot of these candidates have that one strategy they're honing in on because for some of them it's working, for some of them it's their last chance. Mm-hmm. Trump and Carson kind of going for the outsider type thing.
Yeah.
You have O'Malley going for the I'm not either of them. If something goes wrong, I'm the best second chance. You have I guess Rubio is kind of coming up there as just being charismatic.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't really have a sense of humor.
He sounds rehearsed. That's the thing.
Yeah. Bush has been doing his strategy of just trying to be like his brother.
Yeah, which is
he
trying to hide that now? Let's be real.
I don't know.
He came off saying, "I'm not my brother. I'm not my father," and that hasn't been proving to be true.
Right. He's kind of proven that he's just
exactly like them.
Another Bush. Yeah. That's not necessarily.
It's not a bad thing if you liked them, but the American public, I think, is speaking hard on that one.
Yeah, and I think too few people remember George H.W. George H.W. Yeah, he had a fairly well-off presidency until the end, of his presidency.
Well, it doesn't do well that George H.W. just said something along the lines of George W. wasn't a good president.
Right, exactly. He's trying to protect his own legacy.
Yeah.
At the expense, potentially, of his son, which is...
It's a bit dirty, but there's no real reason for that. Speaking of things that have no real reason, why is Carson lying about his memoirs? Can someone please explain that to me? What do you have to gain about saying, "Oh, I had a full scholarship to West Point and I didn't accept it"? What do you have?
He's a neurosurgeon. He doesn't need to play the I is smart card.
Yeah, he has it already. Well, he did have it, and now that's being called into question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about this last time. We talked about how he's going to be the punching bag now because he's high in the polls. And so part of it is that he's getting called out because he's doing stupid stuff. Part of it is because there's a lot to call out that hasn't been done yet. Because why would you?
The less he says, the better. He's not going to win over the Democrats in the general election. He's really not now with his religious views and his very anti-science views. Surprisingly,
it's a shame too because he had the potential to be like a chess master, be very backhanded, and just wait for the other guy to screw up and then attack. And he's kind of given that up to try to be more of a mainstream candidate, and it's failing him.
Well, he's already been characterized as the slow, quiet one with his candor, and I think that kind of broke when he's started to lash out by saying Obama didn't get this kind of scrutiny, which was it was a bit heartbreaking to see because as much as you don't want to be the guy to keep pressing into someone. Like, I remember with a video game series where you were a lawyer, there were defendants on the stand that were breaking down.
You're talking about Phoenix, right?
There were defendants on the stand that were breaking down, and the correct thing to do was to keep pressing them, even though at times you might have felt like a monster. So, he has to hold up to the scrutiny, despite the fact maybe Obama wasn't being criticized as much. But then again, Obama was a charismatic speaker to begin with.
Right. I'm personally enjoying the fact that they're comparing themselves to, Obama's presidency, and this isn't the first time we've seen it where it's like, Obama's missed this many, votes even. And it's like, really, you're gonna try to compare yourself to the person you're largely running against?
Yeah. Speaking of which, he won. So what's your concern?
Exactly.
Where's your gravity to that?
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole thing with the pyramids. Then the whole thing with the
the grain silo.
Their grain storage. What? So now he's proven that he's anti-history. Like, why are you doing this?
I think that when we die, when we go to heaven or wherever we go, and we suddenly have all the knowledge of the earth. I think that we're going to find, potentially, that every morning Ben Carson wakes up and, he pops like 3 or 4 pills in his mouth and he doesn't really know what they are. And I think when we get up to heaven, we're not going to be that surprised. I think we're going to be like, nope, that makes sense. God. Self-prescribed, by the way. Because he is a doctor, let's not forget.
And the worst thing of it is, I don't think that's hurting him. I haven't heard a poll yet where Rubio is going to eclipse him. It's still neck and neck with Trump, so we'll have to see how that changes on Tuesday.
Indeed. And we'll see. I mean, there's a lag in the polls.
Yeah, I don't think there was an updated poll for the Democratic Forum, so we might have to just keep tracking that just on the side.
Yeah, exactly.
Although if there has been one right now, I would love to see it.
Let me check. I don't think.
Well, we'll do it. We'll do it on our own time. Until then, you guys keep being political. We'll be back next week to discuss the Republican debate.
Yes,
as well as anything that may have developed with the Democrats.
Yep, and you're Dean, and I'm Jimmy.
Yes, you are.
Signing off.
Right. Thanks for joining us, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that crazy stuff.
Perfect. Thanks.